Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at Paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, everyone. Today, I am so excited to have someone that I admire, someone whose work I am obsessed with here on the podcast on Tech Magic. Welcome to the podcast, Katie McIntyre. How you doing?
Hi, Cathy. Thanks so much for having me and for such kind words. I also am such a huge fan of your work, and I'm super excited for this chat. So thanks again for having me. I'm doing great this morning.
You bet. You bet. So I want to start, Katie, by introducing folks to who you are and what you do. So who is Katie McIntyre and what makes you you? Because you're pretty unique and special.
Thank you. I'm a designer, a multi-hyphenate creative, a technologist at the intersection of fashion, industrial design, VFX. But I also, I would say, am more of a visionary where I have visual philosophy that I developed called feminist futurism. I've lectured on it at Harvard, USC, Duke, Carnegie Mellon. I used to work for Apple and Google, which was sort of the foundation of what inspired me to want to bring more feminist art principles into design and seeing the value of that from a cultural perspective. And as a result, I've collaborated with some of the biggest artists in the world, including Shensia, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Lizzo, list goes on, as well as some major brands. And I think there's a lot of interest in, including more diverse perspectives and cultivating design languages of the future. And I'm sort of the pioneer of this specific movement. I have a studio called Katie McIntyre Studio that focuses on this, but I also have as well a new brand that I'm launching this year that specifically focuses on technology products and design products in the fashion world. And I'm collaborating with some really big companies on that, which is awesome. And it's called Matriarch. And I think that Matriarch for me is sort of my spirit of being a little bit of a rebellious energy in the tech space, someone who's charting their own path, but who also takes inspiration from previous rebels like Steve Jobs, who were also trailblazers. And yeah, so I guess it's a little bit of summary of me. And on an average day, I'm also, just someone who has a new puppy and who wakes up every morning and works hard. So I would say, that's my life is pretty interesting, but also pretty normal at the same time.
Yeah. I love that you're such a trailblazer because I can completely relate, right? As a woman that has really kind of been in the XR space for a long time. And when it was, early days when it was really hard, it's still hard. Obviously, it's not easy being a woman in tech, but, I definitely can relate. I think that's one of the reasons that you and I kind of really hit it off and really kind of see each other. Like I see you and you see me. So I want to kind of dig a little bit into your experience being, the only woman in some of the teams that you worked in big tech. How was that experience for you?
I think it was really eye-opening for me, and that although I saw some things that maybe I think could be improved upon, obviously I was very inspired by, say, the design lineage of Apple. And I took a lot of, I think even when you see some things maybe you don't like, there's also things you can learn. And I learned a lot from a technical point of view. And I was very young. So I was one of the youngest art directors in their history. So that also, is very challenging, not only being a woman, but being a young woman in a space like that, that's highly patriarchal. And I think that for me was a great learning experience in that I developed a lot of really incredible skills, but then I sort of realized as well, there's this gap in that a lot of the influences from the artistic perspective and the design perspective just happen to be from a male point of view. And that's just more habit than anything. And I think that when those habits become established, it's very hard to break them. And I think that I just, I guess as a young designer, when I went to RISD, I would always be looking at Zaha Hadid's work or Iris Van Rubin and be taking inspiration from them. And there was just an absence of that kind of design presence in a product design space. And so that was a huge inspiration for me to want to, fill that gap of provide in VFX and emerging design and technology, sort of this perspective that I felt had already been cultivated, like there was already equity around it, but no one had really introduced it into some of these spaces. So I think that it was like, although it was a challenge, I would say, to be the only woman on some of these teams, and maybe I wasn't taken always super seriously. I think people take me seriously now, or that at least I made them take me seriously. And I think that's just a result of perseverance and sticking by my beliefs and trying to, think about the future and where young women are going to have a seat at the table. The most exciting for me is when I've given lectures and there's like young designers, especially women, who are like, oh, I didn't realize like what I wanted to do in this space. I knew I loved tech, but this is what I want to do, when they see like some of my work. And I think that I'm trying to inspire people to, not give up their identity while being in a space that has structure that's well established. And I think that that's important regardless of what that identity is.
I love that because I feel like even myself, and I've talked about this in the podcast before, at some point I lost my identity. I felt like I needed to fit in a box. I needed to wear a leather jacket, right? Because all the men were wearing leather jackets. I needed to be like a certain type of, like even my headshots at one point looked robotic. Like I'm not smiling. I'm not embracing the feminine side of who I am until a couple of years ago that I was like I was the only one not giving myself license to do that. And I embraced the femininity being a woman in tech, right? So I can totally relate.
I absolutely love that about you. It's so powerful. It's so inspiring. It inspires me. Every time I see that, I'm like, oh, go off. Because I think that kind of energy, I see like the tech field as a field of innovation and of the future. And if we're sticking by these like values of we have to fit in these sort of masculine boxes, that's actually not innovative. And women are, I think, in many ways, the future. They're almost like the story that hasn't been fully told in the tech space. So I think when I see stuff like that, I just get so happy. And it's very inspiring to me. So I'm glad that you take up the space that you should take up in the tech industry and you are completely yourself, because it inspires more women to be that way as well.
I want to talk a little bit about how you envision the post-glass ceiling era, specifically of design in the tech industry, because obviously you have this vision of what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that a lot of my research and from a design perspective has been into subconscious visual leanings and the effects that has culturally on the subconscious of the users, on their beliefs about themselves. And I think there's a lot to be learned from the art movements that exist. Like, for instance, most of Apple's design work is based on the Bauhaus, which was a German art movement. For anyone that's listening doesn't know, I'm sure you know from those books behind me. But I think a lot of that, they also had a lot of patriarchal leanings in those institutions. And there was almost like a suppression of the feminine expression. And I think that I look at people like Judy Chicago, Helma af Klimt, Iris Van Rubin, I see that all sort of this under this umbrella of a feminine futurist voice, of a post-patriarchy expression, where the female body is not seen as sexualized, but as more historical and celebrated and empowered and used as a visual reference for storytelling and product design. And I think that's a big part of how I see a post-glass ceiling era, is sort of like an embracing of shapes that have been deemed outliers or deviant in some capacities that relate to the female body and incorporating that into product design. I think the prime example of that, for anyone who likes my work, a fan favorite, is this concept car I made called Dakini, which is sort of referencing Venus sculptures. It has a very yonic hood inspired by Hadid's Qatar Stadium. And I think that that kind of influence is very much a post-glass ceiling. That's when there's no rules. I think that that is sort of my vision is like, if we're starting over from ground one, there's no limits on the expression of womanhood. We're not deemed as purely sexual objects. We're observing female to female gaze. What are we creating? How does that relate to other women? And how does that inspire them or empower them? And I think that that is sort of what I imagine. But I also think from a material design standpoint, what Neri Oxman has been doing at the Media Lab, how she talks about mothering nature and nurturing nature and bringing some of these feminine principles into not only the work itself, but like the ideology and the attitude, which I think is huge because I think that we need that perspective in the tech industry. We need to move towards that nurturing mindset of not just trying to just take from the earth and take from people and drain them of their self-esteem, but actually how do we nurture users? How do we care for them in a more meaningful way and bring more of that maternal energy into the tech field? Yeah, that's sort of how I see it, as like a philosophy switch where expression is different, the design languages are different, but also the way that we even think about how we're relating to consumers on a bigger level is also different.
Yeah. Even the term user, like I feel like term user, like I have, and I've talked about in the podcast, like I have like a reaction to that term. Like, I know we use it in tech and everyone's going to use it, daily active users, all that. But the term user to me just signifies that I am, you're using a product, but I'm taking from you. Like for me, there's this duality with the term. It doesn't quite fit what a lot of us want to actually do. There's something there. I personally think, Katie, that you're one of those, like, I know a lot of people know about you, but more people need to know about who you are. And we're working on, like several articles about what you're doing. To me, you're one of those people that is impacting culture at a level that very few people have the experience to do, right? Or the opportunity to do. And I want more and more people to kind of see your work, see what you're doing. You're already doing amazing collaborations. I mean, you've collaborated with artists like Nicki Minaj, Flo Milli, Shenzia, BB Rexa, Lato, Normani, Lizzo, Cardi B. Oh my gosh, I can keep, I'm just obsessed. I can keep going. But how do you see these partnerships impacting culture at large? Because, I mean, that is an amazing roster of amazing women to work with.
Yeah, they're all incredible. And I get a lot of energy from just listening to their music. And I've worked with a couple dudes that are kind of on the train. Like I did a cover for The Weeknd, which was pretty cool. And I look forward to, more men supporting my work and collaborating with me. But I think that I wanted to create an authentic intersectional feminist design philosophy through authentic collaboration. And I think that the way culture is built is honestly through music a lot of the time. Like if you're not going through one of these big companies, a thought for me was, how do I actually affect culture from not being well known and not having necessarily any connections? I'm like completely self-made. So I was like, how am I going to do this? So I just started networking with people in the music industry. And I just realized, first of all, that these musicians and I have the same belief systems, and they have audiences of millions and millions of people that also are on the same page about a lot of these topics as well. So it just seemed like a natural synergy for us to collaborate. And I think in terms of how it's changing culture, like for instance, there is a cover I did for Wild Side where there was, a discussion around how we should do that cover. And I really pushed for them to be on a pedestal instead of maybe on a platter or some of the other ideas that were put around. And just that nuance, I've had so many conversations with young women, especially young Black women, about how meaningful that cover is to them and how they see it as so elegant and empowered. And I think that having that kind of creative voice in the room is really meaningful because I will fight for, the right expression to be seen. And I think that does shift culture, even seeing those empowered images. But I also think that, I recently did the BB Rexa Coachella set, which I did all the VFX and visuals. And that was kind of Thank you. I was sort of mind blown by it because I did these giant monolithic women and I animated them and did all this, more forward thinking design work. But seeing it in real life was just a whole other crazy experience in front of 90,000 people. And it just, the energy of, she's an incredible performer. So the energy of her performing with it was pretty intense. But I think it also was sort of a glass ceiling. And there was a lot of skepticism when I first sort of got involved with the project of, can she do this? There's a lot of typically older men who do this kind of work. And I think that when you go to some of those shows, like there tends to be even more like boyish style visuals for like the VFX. So, having this story of like a very prominent, strong female vocalist and having these innovative visuals behind her that were speaking to a different kind of expression on a stage like that was pretty monumental. And I think that sort of shifts culture alone because, having that kind of presence where people see that kind of stuff creates more of a demand and more of an awareness that, the expression in these spaces doesn't have to be limited to one point of view. That actually also, even me doing that, I hope that other young women will be seen differently and be like, okay, maybe she's an asset to the team. Maybe she will be providing something that is super special and innovative and unique versus seeing sort of young women, especially that are coming up with skepticism around their technical abilities or their artistic abilities. So I think in that way, that's how I see it. Culture shifting is like just through presence, but also through expression in some of these bigger realms. Sort of a long answer, but yeah.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
But I agree with you, Katie, because I feel like, so I mentor a few young women that are in the gaming industry. They're getting their degrees, they're just getting started. And I feel like as the level playing field gets better, right, as the demographics also start to even out, there's more female gamers, there's almost equity, like almost 50-50, not quite, but like in Roblox, for example, it's almost 50-50. And I'm starting to see like they start to understand that their perspective is important. They don't only have to build first-person shooters, right? They want to go for it, girl. Like, go build Call of Duty again. I don't care. But if you want to build something else that doesn't have to be what has been the usual, let's say. So I love that idea of like, you have so much to bring to the table and your perspective is of value. So yeah, like I absolutely kind of like agree with you on it's important to introduce these new perspectives, this new design language like you're talking about, and make it normal, make it beautiful instead of something that is taboo or that, shouldn't be seen or that is seen as weird or outlier. No, like it's about this new. Someone said something to me today. They said, it is a season of possibility right now. They said that to me today. And I took notes. I wrote it on my phone, my notes app, because I was like, 100%. That's how I feel about this moment in time with the tech convergence that we're seeing, with people like you bringing these new visions to life. Like amazing that we have this moment.
Yeah, I think even in the political space, we're seeing, female leadership as well. And it seems like when I see some of the, I guess like Elon Musk's of the world sort of like not necessarily in favor of the feminine leadership, it makes me feel like there needs to be even stronger leadership in tech to match sort of the political leadership. And I think that it's almost like a question that he's almost subconsciously creating for the community of this is the one option. Where's the match to the current leadership, and how can we support her and also, change the narrative in other environments where there's been sort of a dominant point of view. And I think I see it as well as an opportunity of a time of opportunity, and that even the resistance is being used as momentum for a lot of different people in the tech space and beyond. And I think that's an exciting thing. And even on the gaming front too, I have some exciting projects that I'm sort of working on behind the scenes as well. And I'm a huge fan of that community. I think that there is definitely a lot of room for women to, continue to shape it and also take inspiration from it from like a fashion point of view. Obviously, I'm a fashion designer and I see skins as just as real as physical clothing. And I know that the next generation, Gen Alpha, is very much of that mindset as well. I think there's a lot of inspiration we can take from even the way that virtual clothing operates in some of these digital worlds. So
I love that. And you and I have talked about that quote that I said, like the one that everyone quotes back to me on the world's like Coco Chanel is probably, a girl designing in Roblox. And I feel like you're one of those people that I'm seeing like, oh my gosh, like she could be it. Like she could be that next Coco Chanel. She could be that person that is going to take this, I love Pharrell. Don't get me wrong. Love that he's leading, LV, but I want to see more. I want to see more innovation and more, I don't know, like there's something so beautiful about curves and flowing lines and like a feminine perspective that I feel maybe has been lacking in some places. But yeah, like whatever you bring to market, girl, I'm going to buy it. So it's all good. I want to talk a little bit about your studio, Katie McIntyre Studio, and your website, because it's like stunning, beautiful. It's made with a vision. There's purpose. It's like a website is just a website. And people are like, why are you talking about a website? This website has purpose and you poured so much of yourself into it. It's different. Everything from the fonts. I mean, just tell people about the studio and the website.
Yeah, the website is very much like an immersive experience. It's almost like if you don't want to play a game, but you want to feel almost like you're immersed in another world, that's what this website is like. It's not really like just a, traditional run-of-the-mill website. And I did all of the interaction and UI work for it. I worked with one developer. You'd think there was a team of 500 people. There wasn't. I did all the VFX, all of the design, but it really was inspired by, this vision of a feminine future, but also showcasing all my work across film. Like I'm a VFX artist. I've done crazy film productions that have like dragons in them and sort of telling all of it sort of leading back to this singular vision of this sort of feminine future, this empowered vision of the future. And you start off in the website with a metahuman of me where there's like long flowing hair and the hair has all these sort of strong women energy that are also made of hair. It's almost like a hair sculpture. And she has a very organic outfit on. And the whole vision for me was describing, we're in a time where women are not even allowed to show their hair in parts of the world. And I wanted to sort of create this conversation of this vision of feminism and technology and design where we're actually answering some of these cultural questions, but also as women making our own identity. And it was a huge process for me to create this metahuman in Unreal Engine and to build my likeness and to build this vision because it's very realistic, but it's creative. It was a huge endeavor. And so that alone was a massive project. And then the website itself, all the interactions are sort of like going into little rooms where there's like, interactive typography where you like move the mouse and the shadows kind of trace around the 3D aspect of the typography. And they have all these flowing women's bodies through it, sculptural bodies. And it's interesting because I think that I take a lot of artistic references from traditional art to some extent, like marble sculpture and things like that. That's a huge part of this website. And I was in Italy recently and I was like, I actually don't think I went to some of the cathedrals and I was like, there's so much, introduction of figurative languages everywhere. And I think I was just trying to reference that back in this website. And obviously, Steve Jobs is a huge fan of art as well. And he would always say, computer is art and technology is art. And I think that as an artist, as a technologist, that's really what this website is. It is a sort of reflection of the past and the future and where it feels almost ancient and modern at the same time. And it sort of also shows, I guess, like my cultural voice across albums, across fashion, with this concept car, with cross film, across typography. I have a lot of strong design interests. And I think that this is sort of a showcase for that, as well as some of my lectures and resources as well on the info page for young designers. But yeah, I think that I really wanted to create an experience and the most exciting part for me has been hearing, especially from young women, that they find it like a safe place or an inspiring place where it's something that they can go and look at and feel like there is a sense of belonging or excitement towards like a new vision in the design and tech industry that they haven't seen before. So yeah, I guess it's sort of like my child at this point, but I'm super glad to have finished it. And it was an incredible amount of work. I showed my 101-year-old grandmother recently because I was just trying to gauge like, because she's so honest, right? So if she didn't like it, she'd tell me right away. She's not going to sugarcoat it for me. She's, but she was very blown away by it. So I was visiting at her old age home and she didn't even want me to leave because she's like, I just want to keep going to these different, because she wanted to just keep experiencing it. I think she was very captivated by it. But I think that's why even if we're using like new technology, if you reference like classical art philosophies, I think anyone from any age can kind of appreciate that. And she loved the sort of sculptural quality to the website. But yeah, I guess it's more than a website to me. It's almost like a new innovative experience. But yeah, I'm super excited to have finished it.
I almost feel like it's a portal into your feminine futurism vision. It's like, to me, it's like an entrance into that. I don't want to call it an alternate reality. Like, I almost feel like it's, because a website is just a website. Like, it even, like, when I was thinking of seeing it and seeing how it flows, it feels safe. Like, to me, it feels, I don't know, there's something about it. It made me rethink my website. I was like, my gosh, like, like I need to do better and I need to make it, I don't know. You just impacted me in a way that I never thought a website would, which is crazy. Anyway, I do want to talk about the feminine futurism aesthetic that you are working on, that you're bringing to the world, shipping that approach to blend technology and fashion. Obviously, this is a podcast where we talk about tech, but fashion's been a big topic because that's been my playground. My creative playground is fashion. Like, that's where I thrive. That's where I have fun. Like, I can't paint for the life of me and I can't sing, although I will. My kids, are pretty annoyed with me when I sing. But I think that blending of tech and fashion and kind of where you're seeing this, where you're heading, where your approach to feminine futurism is heading, like, tell me a little bit more about that because I find it fascinating.
Yeah, I think like fashion is like such a vehicle for the body in some ways, and that it is an extension of our reality. And so I think especially when a lot of my work has been about reframing how we see women's bodies. So they're always, like, in my work, very strong and powerful. And I think that, fashion obviously is where we house our bodies. So it is so meaningful to sort of address that space in a meaningful way. And a lot of my work has kind of been about introducing even some architectural principles that I've taken inspiration from Zaha Hadid into couture. And I have collaborated and done, couture pieces, both physical and digital, for Cardi and for Shensia, for her album cover, I've done collections with Flo Milli. I've taken inspiration from the late, great Virgil Abloh, who actually discovered me at RISD. Was a mentor to me. He's one of the reasons I worked in the music industry. And I worked on some design incubators for him when I was still in school for Louis Vuitton and Off-White. And he kept telling me, and like the group of us that young students are working on this, he like hand selected a couple people and he was like, I want you to imagine fashion in the year 2050. And like, that's what this assignment is. And like the audience wouldn't know that. I don't even think he announced that to the audience, but it was just the way he wanted us to think. And I think that influence from very early on as a young student kind of inspired me to think that way of, not only what is fashion today, but what is fashion going to be like in the next 50 years and how can you actually shape that? And I think a big part of it, obviously, is understanding that digital is just as real as physical. So my virtual couture, like some of the pieces I've done, even for like Lizzo or whatever, is extremely high end and just as expensive as, physical couture. But it is using new technology like VR and a bunch of different sort of design rhythms that I've come up with myself, virtual sculpting and ZBrush and patterning and Clo 3D and all of these things. And all of that has kind of led to me creating a signature style that's like almost an immersion of all these different technologies. And I think when it comes to what I'm planning for this next year, I really want to, I'm planning on releasing some physical products and doing collaboration with a big tech company on basically taking some gaming principles out of the gaming world and into the physical world. So texture mapping and things that we understand, I think, as gamers as maybe limited to digital realms, but are now expanding beyond that. And I think that the most exciting part about fashion technology for me is the fact that I think they inspire each other, but they're also always in conversation, but that they can shift conversations in terms of like creative contributions. So I see sort of the future of fashion technology as a space where the average person is actually creatively contributing to their own expression every day, the same way you would with like social media or some of these other platforms where we're used to sort of daily expression, but being able to actually do that through your clothing in a digital capacity or in a capacity where you don't have as many restrictions as you might typically have, where there's more of that digital to physical conversation.
No, but I love that because to me, it is that expansion of bringing computing into the physical world, right? And merging the physical and virtual kind of in this flow state of sorts, right? Which obviously for the younger Gen Z and the Gen Alpha kid, my 3 kids are Gen Alpha, like it's real. Like it's not, maybe older Gen Z, not so much, but like millennials and up, we're all kind of like, oh, that's not real because it's virtual. No, it is. It is real. It has essence. It has value. It has power. It is self-expression. So even more intimate, I would say at times, like what my avatar might wear, or, if I can port that into the physical world, there's power there.
Yeah, I would say to anyone who's skeptical about how real digital clothing is or skins known in gaming, if you have a kid they've purchased skins in their game, try taking that away and see how upset they.
No. Don't try, people. You will regret it.
Yeah, I feel like this next generation, it's even more sometimes, even more real, even more valuable. So yeah, I've done some collaborations this year with incubators within Walmart and some other companies that are focused on Zepeto and some of these other platforms that are, actually primarily female audience, 70% female audience. And it's like one of the fastest growing social media apps, but they're all consuming virtual fashion. So it's like, that's the highest commodity in these platforms. So it's like such a valuable thing to understand and to be able to speak to that language, which is slightly different language. Like you can use more VFX and more integrated tech. Like you don't have to follow necessarily all the rules of reality. And that's what makes, I think, virtual fashion and gaming fashion so exciting. I think sometimes where brands fail is when they try to just like replicate exactly how something is in real life versus sort of leaning into the actual medium and contributing something that, say, maybe like animates or moves or has dynamic qualities to it to a gaming environment. And I think those pieces tend to thrive the most.
People that listen to the podcast know I have a dog called Arthur. He's barking. People can hear him in the background. We're getting towards the end of the podcast interview. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions before we finish. Maybe a little bit about what are you most excited about in the next few months? I mean, you've talked about you have a lot of amazing work coming, but anything that you're truly excited about?
Yeah, I have some behind the scenes collaborations that I'm really, really excited about, both in the political space, in the tech space. And I think that they are going to hopefully revolutionize the industry if I speak on a loud point. But I also think that I'll be introducing more of Matriarch, my product company, to the world. And also I feel like Matriarch is a persona. It's a character that every person and or woman can play, of that sort of rebellious, innovative spirit of the woman who sort of chooses to bite into the apple, for lack of a better word, but sort of, makes the choice to have their own independence and have a different vision of the future. And I think that brand, I'm most excited about sort of just bringing to people. I also will be launching for my studio, a really cool 3D phone case, which I actually have here, which you can kind of see. It has really crazy sculptural aspects to it, but I'll kind of see on here. But yeah, I modeled it. It has it's actually my face, but it's sculpted into this character that has all these tiny little sculptures. But it's probably one of the most detailed sculptural phone cases. And that when I created it, sculpted it, and printed it, almost every printer in the world was like, this is too detailed. This is impossible. We can't do this. And then I did it. So I feel like it's almost like a technical feat. So I'm going to be introducing that as well from my studio. That's a studio project for me. But yeah, I sort of introduced it on social media and people are really excited about it. There's a cream one as well. But yeah, I think that it's my studio logo as well. So I think I'm going to be introducing more physical products. Also, I'm going to be going to a couple more events. I'm going to, Pharrell has an animated film at TIFF this year that he produced and did all the music for. It has Lil Wayne and all these different rap artists. And they invited me. So I'm going to be on the red carpet this year, which is really cool. So I think that hopefully I'll also be in some more fashion magazines to try to manifest that.
Yes. Well, I'm going to help you with that. I'll manifest with you. I'll get you in there. I think you're like me. If someone says you can't do something, I'm like, hold my beer. Just wait. Just give me a chance. Give me a couple months. I love it. I do want to wrap up and ask you something very important. So obviously this is, Adweek podcast, lots of brands, lots of communicators, people in marketing, if you'll listen to this. If people want to work with you as brands, how can they reach out to you? Just a little bit more on that.
definitely contact me through either Instagram or you can always email me. It's km@katiemcintyre.co if anyone's listening, or you can find that on my info page. But I would say that, I'm a really open collaborator and that I tend to approach things through an innovative lens, but also like try to understand what's going to make a mark in culture and what's going to be meaningful to people. And I think that the collaborations I have planned right now are with some of the biggest technology companies and fashion companies in the world. And I think that, I'm open to, if you're a small collaborator or if you're in the sense that maybe you're a studio or something like this, or if you're a large company, I'm always open to, working with people. I think that that's one of the reasons why I've sort of had the success I've had already, is just that I collaborate with so many different kinds of people and women. And I think that has led to this influence, because I really do think that, our merging energies, creative spirits makes things even more powerful, even more enhanced. So I'm definitely always open to collaborate. And I think that more product offerings through this feminine futurism lens will just continue to have value as we are starting to see that post-glass ceiling era, as we are moving towards that world. So yeah, I'm excited about all of the work that I have coming, but definitely open as well to new creative voices and collaborations.
I love that. And I reached out to you, I remember a couple months ago on Instagram, and I was like, hey, I was wondering if you could work with me on designing a tattoo. So I've got a scar I want to, kind of cover up. And I'm like, if I were to choose someone to design that for me, because I'm not like a big tattoo person, I was like, it would be Katie's. So who knows? Maybe that'll materialize itself and it'll happen. But I can't wait. It'll be fun. Anyway, Katie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Keep being creative, keep being bold, and keep taking up space. I guess that's for any young people that are listening, and students especially. Keep pushing and aspiring to new creative heights, and don't be limited by anything that you might think is constraining you from being your true creative self. But yeah, I guess that's my last bit, but I'm so grateful to have been here with you and for the interview, and I admire you so much. So this is such an honor to speak with you today. And thanks everyone again for listening, and thanks so much.
Amazing. And on that note, Katie, thank you for being here. Wrapping up this season of possibility with you on this interview. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.